Expectations are probably what a lot of folks are looking for. It's benchmarking, it's networking, and it's learning. When I first walked in the conference room this morning, I opened the door, and the person speaking at the podium is a former colleague of mine at the Department of Justice, and a former colleague of mine, and somebody who I've stayed in touch with, and we mutually network. So to me, that is a great sign of what I'm expecting going forward, and it was great to see. There definitely are some of the leaders, the boardroom leaders, and some of the business leaders. I'm particularly interested in hearing and paying attention to those panels. In terms of subject matters and topics, there's so much to cover, and you can't be at every panel. Bribery is something that my company pays a lot of attention to, and it kind of is my area of expertise. So actually, I'm more interested in learning about things like cyber and spending a little more time on areas that are obviously emergent, very important. Cyber communications training is actually something that my team is putting a lot of attention towards. So things that are not necessarily directly in our obvious wheelhouse are the place where I'll probably gravitate more towards. I'm very proud of our program. I came about 4 years ago, and I inherited a very good program, and I think we've made some very good changes. Having said that, any good compliance program, you've got to evolve, you've got to keep changing. So one thing we've done that I'm very proud of over the last year or so is training in communications. We noticed a while back we have a very good standards of business conduct, code of conduct. We had very good training, but our sense was it was good, it could have been better, maybe a little long, maybe it was a little bit of a kitchen sink approach, and we really gave a very hard, fresh look at our annual code of conduct, our SBC, standards of business conduct training, and other training in communications as well. And what we did with our annual SBC training in particular is just whiteboarded it. We kind of looked at where are our big risk areas, where are the things where we really want to make sure people are particularly focused on. And what we did was we made it shorter, we made it more targeted. We actually created modules. So now if you're an employee at the company, everyone doesn't get the same training. If you have one employee profile, you may have a certain type of training. If you have another employee profile, you may have a different type of training. It's more modular, it's more conformed to the kind of work the particular employee does. So what we've got is shorter, more targeted, better, and more accessible training. And just a quick anecdote, it was just a month or so ago, my office got a call from an employee who self-reported. She said, I have a concern, I think I've been doing something wrong here. It was a books and records issue, and in fact she had been doing something wrong in good faith, but it could have been a real problem for the company had it not been detected. She and her team had been doing it for a while. She said she read our SBC training, and she has a finance background, so it was particularly focused on her. She thought better of it, and she reported to her manager and then to us. That is about as good as you get when it comes to training and training. So I'm particularly happy and proud of the training that we've been doing and trying to continue to do. You don't want just people to read it because everyone has to read it. They're going to read it because they have to. You want them to read it and absorb it and act on it. And that to me was a great example of that. Part of it is obviously leadership. It is a part of our culture. One of our taglines in almost all of our presentations, internal presentations, is winning the right way, doing the right thing, and in particular winning the right way. It is leadership. We do have a very strong tone at the top. I report to the general counsel who he and I have strong lines of communication with the audit committee and the board, the CEO, CFO. So honestly, it comes from that leadership down to the next line of leadership, and a lot of face-to-face and direct interaction with the other senior leaders of the company. We really are doing it with great results. We're a big multinational company. We're all over the world. We have different areas of risk, anti-corruption being one of them, but only one of them. We've hired a lot of people from the Department of Justice and the SEC. I think we probably over the last 5 years have hired probably 10 different people with DOJ or SEC backgrounds. Many of them are still here. We've got a couple of people with that background in Asia doing investigations for us. We have a couple of people in Europe and people in the United States doing that. The hiring of people with that background, particular investigations background, anti-bribery background, SEC background, gives us, first of all, frankly, it saves us money. We're able to really leverage our own resources and our own talent and use outside counsel in a more targeted, focused way, leverage them and use them, but still we can do a lot of the work in-house, at least initially. But also it really brings people in who really know the company, really know the business, and really know the law. So one thing I know a lot of companies are doing, but we really have been doing this for a while, and we're, if anything, doubling down on that idea, is just bringing in, hiring, and to work at our company, real experts, and putting them in the regions, not just at a desk in Washington or Palo Alto, but putting them in Asia, putting them in Europe, to actually get on the ground and interact with the business leaders and actually conduct a lot of the investigations themselves. It is, again, part of it is targeted training, part of it is getting the right leaders to invest in it. So people want to hear from me, that's great. They really want to hear from the CEO. They really want to hear, candidly, not just from the CEO, but the kind of the SVPs a notch below the CEO, who are in the ground, the people, frankly, who sign their paychecks, who give them their bonuses, who set the tone and the culture. So what we really do, and I think we do it effectively and continue to work on this at our company, is really engage on a regular basis, not on a once a quarter, but on a fairly regular basis with those SVPs, those senior leaders, have them understand what we're seeing, share with them trends we're seeing, share with them concerns we have, or particularly bad fact patterns that we come across. And the direct engagement, not on a semi-regular, but on a really regular basis with the engine, the leaders who really run the company. And that engagement and that trust, frankly, has been very effective. The other thing is I do think they trust me and my team. They realize that sometimes I have to say no, but I'm trying to say yes as much as possible. And if I say no, it may be with a solution where we can do something more ethically and more compliantly. So I get that we're a company here to make money and a profit for shareholders, and they get that I get that. But they also know that I have a line I won't cross, I have lines I won't cross, and that if I come to them with a no or a concern, they're going to listen, they're going to answer the phone, and we're going to have an honest conversation. I don't know if it's unique that we're the only company that does it in the world, but I do, when I benchmark, it's something that I think other companies do, maybe not do as much as robustly as we do, or are intrigued and want to do that. So what it is we have, again, more direct engagement with business leaders. So one specific example is a program we call our Liaison Program. What it is when my team investigates some of the most serious ethics investigations that the company, the kind that you report to the audit committee, Ernst & Young, the kind that are really of interest to me and the real leadership of the company. Before we do an investigation, and before we actually decide the outcome, meaning if somebody has to get fired or reprimanded, or if we have to take serious remedial actions, we actually present that case in a report, and then often there's a call we have with business leaders, not just legal, but we get people from the business involved, we have people from HR involved, we have people from finance involved, and we have people from legal. So what we do is we have essentially, the liaisons are a group of elders. They're a group of senior people who have the legitimacy within the company, who actually decide what the outcome should be. That has a lot of great effects. One is it gets consensus. One is it educates business leaders as to issues that they should know about, whether it's in their region or on their team or in another region or another team. And it obviously gets buy-in. So when or if there's pushback, which occasionally happens, the business and the finance and the HR and legal are aligned and are all bought in. So that regular engagement with real business leaders in particular is good. I've seen in other companies where there's a bit of a distance and there's a bit of a tension and there's a perception that legal or ethics is just judge and jury and they don't get it. When you get that direct engagement from the business, the right business leaders, it just works so much easily. So that's something that, again, I think other companies do. We do it in a very structured, formal way, where we have regular meetings, we have regular reports, we have a regular process, and it works great. The other thing we do is we have what's called an Ethics and Compliance Committee, and I think other companies do this as well. It's something we did many years ago. It's evolved over the years, but it's been great. So what it is we have our audit committee, we have Ernst & Young, we have our outside auditors, we have other regular cadence within the company throughout the year at the senior leaders level. What we have is an Ethics and Compliance Committee. It is a quarterly meeting that I chair, that I run, and it's got most members of the executive committee there. It's an hour once a quarter, at least, sometimes more, and sometimes we meet more than once a quarter, where we sit and my team presents for an hour on trends, issues, concerns, particular investigations, initiatives. It's my opportunity to have an additional inflection point, an additional forced conversation, good forced conversation with the real leaders. I take that very seriously, that hour. It's a very valuable hour of their time, my leaders do, but we really use it to good effect to get ideas and get engagement from them. So we do that. What we're doing now is, my team does not directly handle cyber, but the cyber team has seen how well this works, so they're setting up their own separate compliance committee based on the model that we've set up. So the success that we've had really getting that engagement on our areas of risk, the ethics compliance areas of risk that my team handles, is now going to be leveraged, and now the cyber team is going to have their own quarterly cadence with that same group of senior leaders of the company. So it's a model that works well. If you make sure you use that time properly, the senior leaders, HR, finance, the business leaders, they get it and they want to hear what you have to say. It's an area, my team is responsible for privacy. There's an obvious connection between cyber and privacy, but very separate. So issues like the GDPR and basic core privacy issues are what my team handles. But cyber is, obviously, and for a company like mine, which is a tech company, really any company, any multinational company, it could present an existential threat if you really have a big crisis. So you got to get it right. We have a great separate cyber team that I partner with on a very regular basis. For obvious reasons, there's an obvious connection, whether it comes to investigations or privacy, but it's a huge area of risk that my company is spending more and more time on, getting more and more senior audit committee and board level visibility to what they're doing.